Hi, good morning, friends. My name is Benjamin Grundy. I am teaching this 90-minute yoga class today for you. So glad that you could make it. Wow, I hope you all have a cool space to practice. I remember that from the very first yoga text that I came across when I was a young learner in my early 20s, and found some interesting thick book about many aspects of yoga, some of which are very normal and commonplace, and some of which were rather bizarre. But I remember the first thing that it said about asana practice was to find a cool space, perhaps something like a cave with clean, fresh air and shade. And that it makes good sense these days, doesn't it? Well, I would like us to begin with a little seated pranayama practice. So if you could arrange yourself with the support that you need and settle yourself in a comfortable upright posture, we can begin. Let me just start by observing your natural breathing within the tone of your body as it is right now. Notice how the quality of your breathing is a reflection of the tone of your nervous system right now. Sense the space, the surroundings around you. How the tone of your nervous system and your breathing is somewhat affected by this space. You can at first just register that if you are in a space that gives you some resource of support, peace, calm, protection from the elements, or a pleasant exposure to the elements, how that's a helpful resource right now. It gives you the opportunity to find your center and maintain it. Gives you the support to observe yourself to be present with you. And also take note of how your own presence with yourself can be a nurturing, calming, and even further centering influence. There are aspects of your presence with yourself that may also at times have tendencies to create disturbance. As part of the practice is we acknowledge that, we accept that, and we also find the ways that we have agency over that. That you can make choices about how you hold space for yourself, how you handle and regulate your own nervous system, your own mind. And this breath that comes in. So let's begin with Ujjayi breathing, which simply could be at the back of your throat, back of your palate, the top of your windpipe. The feeling of just the beginning of a yawn. That might be reminiscent of the tone that your lips might make when you're blowing a big soap bubble. So we take in and out breaths with even smooth pace in such a way that is soothing, calming, and steadying for the breath. We'll use this type of breathing for a couple of minutes. With that presence of mind, intending that this is a calming breath. This down regulates any agitation in your system. If you notice any tension in your throat in this breathing, that's beyond the tone of soft lips that make a sound that you can hear on the inside, like a soft rustle of leaves in a pleasant breeze. You can release that tension, release that effort. Make the breathing that much softer while still maintaining smooth control. Feel the dance between that slight toning up in your throat and the movement of your diaphragm in your solar plexus. Drawing down into your belly with in breaths and receding back up into your rib cage with out breaths. You might notice how your posture creates a container provides the space for this connection. Posture and tone of breathing move together. And finally, for the next several breath cycles, observe yourself as a breathing body practicing ujjayi control. Observe as if from the outside, from the space of your room. Notice how you are as a body drinking breath and flashing it out. And then you may complete this breath cycle with an exhale and allow your body to return to its own native, natural breathing on its own, while you continue to hold yourself in peaceful observance. Good. Next, I'd like to try a similar breath practice. We call this the straw exhale, as Sarahjoy has taught it. So the straw exhale follows an ujjayi inhale, control of the inhale at the top of your windpipe, just the way that we did it in the last pranayama. And the exhale is done by pursing the lips gently, not too tight, but enough that you slow the breathing. So this is a smaller opening on the exhale than the opening in your throat on the inhale. But I'd like you to do this in such a way that, like the last practice, is calming and soothing. So I noticed for myself when I first started practicing the straw exhale, as with ujjayi breathing, I was creating more tension than I needed to. I was creating stress in my body. I don't know if some of you may have had a similar experience with any of these breathing practices, that at first they're agitating, but then as you learn them, they can serve as a calming influence on your system. So we'll try this ujjayi inhale, straw exhale, and the exhale will slow down your exhale significantly. You can count if you like, especially if your mind is active in the practice. It can give the pitta mind something to do that's useful. Attention to breath. You could count. And the exhale might be twice as long as the inhale. So normal ujjayi inhale, that with the control at the throat that fills your belly, your midsection, your chest. And then the straw exhale, like blowing out a straw, pursing your lips, slowing the exhale. It's the practice of patience. And I ask you to meet the practice with your deep patience for a couple of minutes. Again, the sound and the effect on you of the breathing could be like the soft rustle of leaves, sweetness on a calm day. And as you breathe, if you notice any excess tension in your body, please try to release it. This could include allowing your cheeks to puff on that straw exhale. You might try that, like a relaxed trumpet player in a jazz band, in the flow. Patience with the time that it takes. Use the practice as an agent for calming, soothing. Practice to relax within. Last several cycles of the practice, see how you can also further smooth the transitions between exhales and inhales, between inhales and exhales. Exercising patience in your diaphragm itself. You can complete this or one more cycle of breathing, and then, as before, allow your body to return to breathing itself, relaxed and natural. And observe yourself in the transition. And take note of what shift may have happened from before these two breathing practices and now. How has your self-regulation turned out? Complete and seal this portion of the practice by taking our palms together in Anjali Mudra. Giving a gentle compression to the front of your heart. If you like, with an out breath, you may bow your head to your heart. So this is for you. And release your hands. Open your eyes. And please, if you have blocks or some support, you may take them to the front of your mat. And then assume tabletop position. And we'll refresh the spine from all this time of seating with cat and cow breathing. The movement of arching toward the ground on your inhale, releasing in your shoulders and your hips. And then on the exhale, smoothly arching upward, engaging actively in shoulders and hips. You could feel this like you have a hand on the volume control of tension in shoulders and hips. And as you arch upward, you turn the volume up in activity. And as you lower yourself down, you're smoothly turning the dial down until at the bottom there's a release, kind of a hang at the top of your in-breath. Just feeling, loosen up, smooth out any tensions in your spine. Refresh. Good. Let's come down onto forearms now and Sphinx pose. We'll do a moving version of Sphinx in which on the inhales, we relax in the shoulders and belly completely to sink down. On the exhales, there are two actions, one in the shoulders, which is pulling the shoulders back and down to lift. And then the second aspect is in the bandhas. We tone up gently the pelvic floor, then Uddiyana Bandha, drawing in the floating ribs, and Jalandhara Bandha, the scoop and lift of the occiput upward to lift the crown. So inhales, shoulders and bandhas release smoothly together to lower you down, passive on the bottom. In breath, lead with the shoulder scoop and the bandhas support in completing lift upward. Yeah, smooth strokes, just like before, like turning a volume dial. Like one of those digital ones you may have seen that turn themselves when you push the button on the remote control. It's a very smooth, coordinated toning up and toning down. And notice what breathing you have by default chosen, what tone, if there's any control, if there's any tension in your throat. If you feel like your throat and your diaphragm have connection. Good. Okay, from the next lift, we're going to tuck our toes and come into a forearm plank. So we find a middle place with the bandhas and the shoulders. Shoulders, lower your chest to about a neutral position, not sunken, not lifted as high as possible, but just gentle middle way in the shoulders. And then the bandhas find a tone that creates buoyancy in your spine. You imagine that you're floating gently in a pool of water. Now, if this is too strenuous already for you and you don't feel that you can maintain and breathe smoothly, you could lower a knee to the ground or two. And we're going to just practice the straw exhale here. Ujjayi inhale, in breath. Smooth connection between your throat and your diaphragm. Occiput lifted for open breathway. Straw exhale. One more round of that breathing. See if you can use the straw exhale to calm yourself in the pose. Patience. Good, and then lower your knees. You can lift your elbows and rock your hips back into puppy pose. So hips raised up over your knees, knees about hip distance apart on your mat. And your arms with an energy of support for your shoulders that creates breadth, broadness in your chest and upper back. Open space for breathing in the upper corners of your lungs. Watch your transition into calm. And also notice any aspect of this pose that might, as you sustain it, be causing a little agitation. Is there a way that you can soothe yourself in that? Great. You can step your hands in under your shoulders to return to tabletop position. Okay, and then we'll take a position with your hand up on the right block. Could be, depending on your height, up on end might be a good place. And then extend your left leg out behind you. And again, you can bend your left elbow a little here. Just try to create a experience in your spine that feels like buoyancy in water. For the base of your sacrum, for the back of your solar plexus, and for your head. Open breathway, calm Ujjayi breathing. And you can allow yourself to slowly rock forward and back in this position, as if you're floating in water. Just gently floating to one end of the pool and then to the other. So there's a little freedom in your hips and your shoulders. Yeah, also supported, open, buoyant. Notice the agitation that begins to arise as you sustain a little longer, and what you can do to regulate this using your breathing, your presence with yourself. Knowing that you're preparing yourself with something simple for something that may be more challenging later in the practice. This is why we come to class. Part of it to be challenged. Yeah. So you can lower your left knee and your right hand, and then use whatever movement or resting pose for this moment. I'll help you to integrate that position. Yeah, feel the effect on your body. And then we can try the second side. So from tabletop position, extend your left hand out to the block, and then extend your right leg out behind you. Soften your right elbow, bending straight back toward your hip, so that you can find just a middle place. You're feeling it out. Yeah, part of what we come to class for, even though we are all at a distance apart online, is also to practice with others. So knowing that everyone like you is feeling this out from the inside. Each of us trying to feel for ourselves, for that sense of creating buoyancy. And so rather than this feeling dense or fiery, try to make it feel like floating in water. You can give yourself a gentle rock forward and back in the pose slowly. Just like the water that you imagine you're floating in is what's moving you. Yeah, gentle currents around you, supportive. Good. Yeah, knowing that others are also meeting the challenge of sustaining, keeping the calm breath, keeping the calm heart open. Yeah, maybe a little longer. And when you're ready, then take your knee and your hand down. And then again, freestyle integration. It feels like it's the impulse that arises to work that out. Good. And then let's all meet in a downward facing dog pose. And palms at shoulder distance apart, feet at hip distance. And a nice lift with your thighs to take your hips up and back. And then soften in your shoulders. And see if you can find that same tone that you just had in your spine that created a feeling of buoyancy. And you might translate that into a bit of a sway in your hips and heels. Yeah, with control. Not losing that sense of flotation, buoyancy. How can the action in your arms, maybe rolling out the tops of your arms, create space in your upper back and chest, space in your shoulder joints, sense of freedom, fluidity, as you continue with some free movement a little longer. And then we'll come out of the pose by walking our feet forward to our hands. And then you can step your fingertips forward and extend your heart into the space with an exhale. And then slow straw exhale to bow into Uttanasana. Draw it out. Invite your spine to decompress as you take an in-breath now and rise. And lift your hands toward the sky, Urdhva-hastasana. Good. And then float your hands down to your sides. Feel yourself in standing neutral. Breathe in. And raise your hands again. Lift your heart. And now maintain this position of raised hands and just lower your shoulders down. Slide your shoulder blades down your back and find that rolling out action in your arms, upper arms that broadens your shoulders. Good. Shift your weight over to your right leg and slide your left toes back and out wide to then lower your heel in at an angle for Warrior One pose. Okay, here, if it helps, you can place your palms together overhead to give with the hands a little press, assist in that pulling down of your shoulders. Yeah, but we want to keep the chest and the heart open wide. You can take a little lean back into the support of your firm left leg. Lift your heart, lift your gaze. Good. Whatever breath feels most calming to you right now, maybe ujjayi breathing or the straw exhale. Notice what your body goes to as a resource. Calm the effort, calm the agitation as you sustain. Yeah. Feel what your heart is doing right now. What sound it might be making if it were making a noise. And then sweetly lower your thumbs down to your sternum and feel the shift in that your heart and your respiration makes. Very nice. Okay. Now lower your hands, straighten your front leg. You can take your hands to your hips and fold forward from your hip joints to Parsvottanasana. Maybe you can lunge forward and bring your blocks nearby on either side of your front foot in preparation, but we might stay here with hands on your front thigh for just a moment to find that length, smooth breathing, and sense of buoyancy in your torso. So both feet working to take your hips up and back evenly. And then if they release enough that you can take your hands down, fingertips maybe to your blocks, legs still long and straight, hips lifting back, and your spine maintaining a sense of buoyancy. Can you control your foundation in such a way that your lower body is solid, but your upper body has a little sense of fluidity, like maybe it could sway a little bit here in a very subtle way. Yeah, sway and soften, and then finally release into a rounded back bow, just to let go for a moment. Feel the transition in your nervous system again. Good. So from here, bend your front knee over your ankle and step your left foot all the way back into a full length lunge. Heel up if it's safe, and if it's not, you can take a slightly shorter stance with your foot out at an angle again and your knee and your heel down. Use your blocks, your front leg, as support to raise yourself up again upright. Yeah, nicely done. So you can take hands at your waist right now and find that action of bandhas as we did in the Sphinx pose. So shoulders shrug back and tailbone aims down, floating ribs in, occiput back and up. And use that movement to lead you into a gentle back bend again. Just moderate, nothing to agitate yourself. Actually, we're trying to stay in the calm zone here. We're playing with fire, but keeping cool. You can try interlacing your hands behind your head and see what effect that has on your inner regulation. Try firming up your back leg again, reaffirming support, and be present with what effect that has. Good. And if you'd like, you may test the waters of raising your hands, and if it feels right, taking a deeper arch. Listen to your heart, your breathing, your nerves. Feel your throat. What can you do to keep open quality inside? Perhaps even a sense of buoyancy in this pose. Good. Now you may lower your back heel into the midline, turn your chest to the side and open your hands out wide from your shoulders in Virabhadrasana 2. Feel the transition here as you re-lengthen and anchor your spine. We'll transition now. Lower your back hand and raise your front hand. Upward arch. And a cycle of breath flowing through. With an exhale, windmill your hands forward. You can clear your blocks. Place your palms under your shoulders, down on the front of your mat. Step your right foot back to plank. Okay, and let's sustain for 3 Ujjayi inhales, straw exhales. How can you hold the space to continue calming and creating buoyancy? Freedom in your joints, even in the static pose. Very good. On your final exhale, you may take your chest forward and roll down to the mat. And then elbows back toward your hips, just as in Sphinx pose. Shrug the shoulders and roll up the bandhas to lift in Bhujangasana. Maintain for another cycle of breathing. Your choice. Ujjayi. Another lengthening inhale. And then on the out breath, tuck your toes and shift back to downward facing dog pose. And here you can open to free movement, free play. And observe how your inner tone shifts, how your mood even may shift as you follow your own impulse now. It's like relief, right? Good. Let's, as before, walk our feet forward to the front of the mat. And step your fingertips forward. Adho Uttanasana. Extend. Big in-breath. Straw exhale to slow motion bow. Uttanasana. And take a pause at the bottom of the exhale to let your spine decompress. Then with your in-breath, rise up. Urdhva and sustain. So here to sustain Urdhva Hastasana, upward hands pose. The first move is to drop your shoulders. Yeah. And the second good move is to support that draw back of your occiput to open your windpipe. Find the connection between your throat and your diaphragm here. What adjustments can you make to create an open, easy container for space for that connection to happen? When the throat and the diaphragm are at ease, then your vagal tone increases. That helps keep your heart and your breathing calm and your mind calm. And then your presence is better for yourself in the pose. You might take palms together if it feels supportive of keeping those shoulders down. It's a whole feedback loop. And we use the tools to better enable our own presence with ourselves, to better enable the tools. Everything's happy. Okay, from this position, shift your weight to your left foot And slide your right toes back and out wide. Turn your heel in as you lower it at an angle inward. Yeah. And you can firm your right leg, position your left knee over your left heel, and begin to lean back to lift your heart. What can you do to keep things calm, to calm the fire? What are your tools for calming yourself in your center? You're doing so well. Let's lower the thumbs down to the heart again and feel the effect of that. Yeah. Could the hands in Anjali Mudra calm you enough that you would feel comfortable arching back deeper in this pose? Yeah, we explore. Okay. Now please straighten your left leg, front leg, lean forward. Hands can come down to your front leg. If you'd like to lunge forward and reach for your blocks to bring them up on the mat, either side of your front foot, and then resume that high version of Parshvottanasana, unless you have great flexibility, but I really want you to find that tone in your bandhas that supports your spine bottom to top. Little extension. You could even feel back. Take a fingertips to your low back of one hand and see what you can do to create more space, more ease in the muscles around those lowest vertebrae in your spine. That scoop of support from your deep belly can help make this part of your body more buoyant. Translate that out through other parts of your spine. If you'd like to progress to hands on blocks, we follow the fold of the hips. That's the progression in the pose, while the spine stays long and open and supported. Notice what breathing you are using at the moment, just to see. You don't have to change it. See how it's working for you. And then we'll release back muscles to round and take a bow over the straight front leg. Yeah, taking care for all your joints. Supporting your hips from your feet. And lift. And then hands supported on blocks if you have them, or on a floor. Lift your right leg and take the long lunge step back. Heel up or down, your choice. Use your front leg as support to rise upright again. Yeah. So create that trustworthy foundation in your lower body. If it's too narrow and you feel precarious, you could try walking heel toe your front foot out a little wider and see what that does for your sense of security in the pose. Yeah, your nervous system will tell you, your heart will tell you. So hands at the waist, shoulders shrug back, and bandhas roll support upward to draw tailbone down, floating ribs back, occiput back and up, and firm your back leg that you can lean into its support to rest back in the pose. In this practice, and in life, We use imagery. In life, sometimes our imaginations lead us to more agitation, to anxiety, worry. In this practice, we use our imaginations to bring calm. So if the idea of laying back on a cool grassy hill under the shade of a tree, a beautiful breezy day, watching the clouds pass over your head, if that imagery helps you to feel okay and sustain in the pose, then you can use it. You can interlace your hands behind your head again, resting back. Body's talking to you. You are listening. You notice. You smile. And say it's okay. If you need to shift, then you do so. Yeah. And if you'd like to reach your hands up and take a stretch a little further back within your means, you may do that. When you're ready to leave this pose, we'll exit the way we did on the previous side, lowering your heel into the midline, turning your chest to the side and arms reach wide. Bharadvajasana too. Bring your spine back into its sense of center, its place within the framework of your supporting legs, your feet. And finally, your head can draw back and then turn to face out over your front hand. Breathing smooth and easy. Lower your rear hand and raise your front hand. Gentle stretch. Open breath. And then with your out breath, windmill your hands forward to clear your blocks. Place palms on your mat and step to plank pose. And return to buoyancy and your soothing breath. Maybe the imagery of floating in water is helpful for you. And I imagine for some people, that might not be a helpful imagery. You could imagine pillows, the biggest, fattest pillows, softest pillows you could imagine, all lined up under your body. That you can relax a little bit into the cloud of pillow support. You can take your chest forward, softly bend your elbows back. With an out breath, roll down to the floor. And then shrug and lift with bandha support, bharadvajasana. Let's take 2 sustaining straw exhale breaths here. Intentionally slowing it down. Surround yourself with your calming mind, calming presence, patience. After the third in-breath, follow the exhale to downward facing dog pose. And then notice the change in your mood as you shift to free play. This can be resting or something patterned, or follow your impulses. Have a little fun with it, lighten it up. It's like children do, naturally, all the time, if you let them. There aren't any child controllers here, right? It's a job that someone has to do. So we tell ourselves. Oh, good, wiggling out. Okay, and then let's come back to hands and knees pose, tabletop. And let's take some nice hamstring stretches here. Those warrior poses can do a number on the hamstrings. It's a lot of work. It's good work. It's good work for the hamstrings. We'll take a lunge forward, the right foot. You can use blocks on this one. I like to have blocks under my hands. To then, with exhale, straighten the front leg and scoot my belly back. My front foot, toes, and my hands are all pressing to take that scoop. And then in breaths, come forward, find that shoulder shrug, and bandhas lift. And follow the pace of your smooth, full breathing. Scooping back and arching forward and upward. Bright and vital. You feel the goodness that you're doing for yourself in this practice. Working your body, your mind, testing your nervous system. After the next shift back, you can draw your right knee back down and lunge your left foot forward, and then just continue with that pattern of movement. In breaths, lifting, out breath, scooping, and bowing. Feel for the spaciousness in this moment. And could you create more sense of spaciousness for yourself? More space for your innate vitality to emerge. It's just waiting to happen, to be kindled by your breath. Good. On your next lunge forward, tuck your back toes under to lift your knee, lower your back heel, turn your front foot to face in the same direction. So we come to a wide leg stance, lunging forward, and let's just walk the hands from one side to the other with the spine long and buoyant in the position. We're just going to lunge side to side, opening up. Maybe it's getting warmer in the space where you are. Can stay present with your efforts to keep cool. Even though we're working our bodies. The theme of the practice is to do so in such a way that you manage coolness. Very nice. Okay, let's come to center. Open your heart forward, and then take your right palm down on the floor under your face, or on a block if you prefer. Left palm to your sacrum, and turn your chest open to the left. Open your shoulders broad and wide. You might try coming up onto fingertips with your right hand on the floor. See if that feels better, if you're better able to lengthen your spine, better able to twist. And maybe you can reach your left fingertips up toward the ceiling if you get in such a position. We're going to sustain here for a few breaths and invite the hips to find their yielding and fold deeper. So the spine stays long, open and buoyant, and the hips gradually relax in the pose. Yeah, good. That's right, listening to your shoulders. It's a dance with your own body responses. And turn out, downward to the face down the pose. Maybe bend your elbows to release your spine into a momentary bow. Maybe shake out your head a little bit, release your neck. And then rise back to buoyant extension. Left hand down, right hand to your sacrum or hip. Turn your chest open to the right. There's that similar movement that we were doing in that first Sphinx pose. The shrug back of the shoulders and the rolling scoop of the bandhas. Mula bandha, Uddiyana bandha, Jalandhara bandha. From the bottom to the top. Takes your head back. That's the spinal support that then creates leverage in the pose as you relax in your inner thighs and hips. They yield to gravity's pull on your torso. Torso doesn't bend, but your hips release. And you may deepen in the twist too. There's also this feedback loop in the practice of yoga. The asanas help you learn how to regulate your breath, your mind, your nervous system. And then as that process develops, then you learn how to regulate the asanas better. You learn to understand all aspects and practice them with grace and to useful ends. Turn out of the pose. Let's walk hands forward as far as you can. So fingertips reach to lengthen your spine. You can lower your head between your upper arms. Find buoyancy again as you lift from your feet to take your hips up and back, your tailbone toward the wall behind you. You can imagine floating on a cloud here, if that's an enjoyable imagery, flying to the sky, light and free. Step your hands back in between your feet and take a curling in bow. Allow the crown of your head to lower toward the floor if that feels safe and supported by your feet and hands. Your tailbone can reach up toward the ceiling. Good. And then take your hands to your hips and bend your knees to rise all the way up. All right. Let's walk our feet in heel toe, and take a moment to refresh the legs and feet. Good work they've done. All right. And then we'll take a moderately wide stance here and some side stretches. So left hand to your left hip, right arm up and over the top. With your exhale, soften into a side bend. We'll take a few breaths here, lengthening on your inhales. And you might, if it's calming, use the straw exhale if you like that one, or just a simple ujjayi breath exhale. Slow softening, slow process of the side bend from your waist to the top of your neck. Lengthen your spine on each exhale. A couple more. Okay, and then with your in-breath, you can take both hands up and arch back to transition to the other side. Exhale into the side bend. Inhales, lengthen and create space between your vertebrae. Good. One more breath out. And then on your inhale, both hands up and back. Gentle arch back. And then float your hands down to your sides. Back for to a wide leg position for one more posture, standing trikonasana. So you may want to use a block behind the heel that you're leaning to. So we can go right foot turns toward end of the mat. Left foot stays pointing toward the side. It's your choice on this one. On the angle of your rear foot. In my studies in trikonasana, the rear foot can be at a 90-degree angle. It's not so important, but sometimes the feeling of turning it in gives you a little more leverage from your big toe. So this kind of depends on what your left knee needs for support. You know, it's the big toes and the arches are giving your knees some buoyancy in this pose. So as you begin to tilt your pelvis, yep, maintaining long and straight spine, bandhas and breath, shoulders shrugged back. Feel that relationship, that dance between feet and hips, big toes and knees. You might take your right hand down to your shin or to the block up on end if you're already that flexible, but we mind now we're trying to create length and buoyancy in the spine, so feel for it. And you could always take your free left hand back down to the base of your spine and feel how it's doing. What adjustments can you make to bring that to more straightness, openness, ease? And there's a gentle twist then here, as in warrior two pose. The heart turns upward as you lift your left fingertips toward the sky and perhaps your gaze. The turn of the head upward comes with good buoyant support from the bottom of the top to the top of your spine. Mula Bandha tone. Uttiyana Bandha tone. Floating ribs, broadening the back of your solar plexus. And finally, the occiput comes back. You could take your hand behind your occiput to press back into and lengthen, and then turn it upward. What a difference good alignment of the spine makes. Yep. As in the previous forward bending pose, the release is in the hips. That's the progression, not the spine bending. Good. Refresh your support from your feet, for your knees, for your pelvis, for your spine. Good. And then you may bend your front knee and turn down to place your hands on the floor. Lift your back heel to come out of the pose. If you'd like to take a momentary transition of movement or a resting pose before the second side, please do so now. Continue to hold space for the experience of your nervous system, of your body, breathing, and blood pumping systems. And and even at the surface of your skin, your sweat system, the pores, feeling their energy. And under your skin, your lymphatic drainage system. What's the tone there? Is fluid freely flowing out of your body cells, out of your muscles to refresh, to cleanse? Yeah. If there's too much tension in the skin, that might not work. But also if the tone of our asanas is too flaccid and not dynamic enough, then there might not be so much lymph movement. Just being aware of all these body systems working on your behalf with your help. We'll set up for the second side, Trikonasana now. Good, all your framework in place. And then it begins with a gentle lean. And that shrug back of your shoulders, toning up of your bandhas from the bottom to the top. Find a yielding in your hips, supported by your feet, and the buoyant length in your spine, supported by bandhas and breath. Staying calm. You could imagine that your legs and pelvis are like a mountain or hill, and your torso like a tree. It's grown out over time. It grows sideways, it reaches a branch up, a branch down. Though it's an odd and awkward position, that's the shape of this tree. It has no choice but to be itself. And so in being itself, opens to grace, opens to life, opens to vitality, does its best. Has an experience of beauty in life. Yeah. Has an experience of storms, breaks, and regrowth, new seasons. Yeah. Beautiful ways I'm seeing of you all tending to yourselves, being present. I can see it. Yeah. What helps you sustain a couple more breaths? Call on all your resources, your tools. Your presence in center. And then gracefully turn down out of the pose. And once again, follow your body's wisdom to integrate and return to your natural center. Yeah, great. Take your time and then we'll gradually all meet up on our backs, on our mats. You might have a drink of water. Notice what the effect of that is. Or the effect of not having a drink of water. Okay, we'll have a block or firm support nearby for the option of supported bridge pose later. But for now, let's, from our backs, just take hands out wide and begin with a feeling of your spine and your head and sacrum supported by the floor fully. You can let those sink into ground. And then we'll start to sway in the knees, just rubbing them past each other, not in a twisting way. So allow your sacrum to stay solid and balanced level on the ground. Just find the movements in your hips as you sway your knees side to side, slide one knee down past the other, opening up the movement in the hips, inner and outer. And then you can hold knees and ankles together and turn it into a twisting sway. Arms and shoulders relaxed broadly. Receive the benefit of this compression of the floor and the gentle massage as you roll over your hips. Yeah, nicely done. Let's take a little figure 4 position. So one ankle crosses over the other knee. With your hand, you can press into the inner thigh of that crossed leg to open the hip, decompress in your belly and lumbar. Breathe into the space. And then from there, let's take palms down to the floor beside your hips. Tuck your shoulder blades under your back, and we'll do a figure 4 bridge pose. Lift to allow your folded knee to drop toward the floor to the degree that it feels safe. And your arms and grounded foot work together to lift the other hip. And then with an exhale, roll it back down. Good. And then you can lift your foot from the floor to interlace your hands around the back of your thigh. If that doesn't work, in such a way that you can relax your shoulders back down and your neck long, you might just hang out in figure 4 with your foot on the floor, or you could try it up on a wall or a chair, or with a strap around your thigh. This is part of staying in one center, is working within your means. So in this figure 4 stretch, not so much a stretch actually as just finding how to relax your back body completely. Relax your legs and your hips and your feet completely. The gentle drawing in of your arms assists gravity's pull, folding you in. You're just getting out of the way, releasing the resistance in your back body and legs. Find softness here and the calm that can abide within that. Yeah, stay with the experience of layers of yielding. Doesn't happen all at once, does it? Good. Then we'll smoothly release the foot to the floor. Keep the figure 4 crossed. We'll take the hands wide again and turn your hips so that your foot that's crossed over the knee lowers down to the floor. Place the sole of that foot onto the floor and the outside of your other leg all the way flat. If you can get that to rest all the way on the floor. and your shoulders both to come back to ground softness. And again, we just yield to gravity's pull. Allow the compression on the floor and the smooth twist to take place. Back to laying on that grassy hillside. Ah. Yeah, you can let it go. And then supportively take yourself out of the twist, uncross, refresh your legs as you might need to, and then recross the other way. We'll go through the same progression. First, the press of the hip open with your palm. You can give some shiatsu style compressions up and down your inner thigh if you like. And then press close to your hip to feel the opening deep in your pelvis and up through your deep belly. And then palms down by your hips, shoulders underneath, peel up to one-legged bridge, figure four bridge. Your raised knee can find its way to let go from the hip, descend toward the earth while the hip of your grounded foot finds its support to lift like the arch of a cathedral, creating space underneath you for light and air to move through. And then when you're ready, smoothly roll down. And next, proceed with the fold inward. Shoulders back, spine long and supported. And then a challenge of completely letting go with your back body and your legs. Can you tune in to turn that volume dial all the way down? It's a process. It doesn't all turn at once. Some tensions take time to remember how to let go. But we're going for as much softness as possible in this pose. It's not an active pose. Though your arms and hands and shoulders do have a light duty. Yeah, learn to differentiate that. Learn to differentiate your parts. Legs let go, hips let go. Maybe a sigh, let's go. Good, when you feel complete and release to take your foot back to the floor. Hands go wide, shoulders grounded, and twist to take your raised foot, roll down to put the sole of the foot on the floor. And as before, the outside of your other leg, all grounded, not lifted. As a teacher, I see lots of people do lots of active things in this pose, pulling on the knee and pushing on the knee and pushing the twist. See what happens if you just let gravity take care of it for you. Again, there may be a little bit of action on your part to maintain your form, but your job is to minimize that as much as possible. Turn the volume on the activity meter down, down, down. Very nice. And then smoothly untwist, uncross, refresh. And here's where you have the option in the relaxation pose of the supported bridge. We only have about 5 minutes left. And so if your preference is to just take a laying down savasana now, then please do so. If you take the supported bridge now, you could do a savasana after we get off the class, if you like. This is our few minutes of relaxation. We've been practicing letting go, so as best you can, accelerate the dive into passivity. If you're using the block for supported bridge, make sure that it's right under the center of your sacrum and stable, balanced. Your feet wide enough so that you can drop into inactivity as much as possible. Relax your neck. Relax your neck more. Let your upper back bear the weight so that you can completely relax your neck. And your jaw, your face. Your eyes may softly close if they haven't already. Be aware of the presence of your heart beating in your chest. And if it feels like the right thing to do, you could take a hand and place it over your heart as a gesture of nurture and presence, acknowledgement of what your heart goes through in your life. Acknowledgement of how it sustains you. You can feel the flow of blood from your heart to every cell throughout your body. All things connected within you. Your body whole. And now through your closed eyelids, imagine the sky above the city where you live. How the breezes and the clouds and the birds are doing their thing. Part of the vitality of life, energy of the universe streaming through in all directions. If it feels right, you may remove your hand from your heart. Open it to receive that life force energy from all around. Open every body cell to receive and be part of this vitality of the universe. If you are in the supported bridge position, now would be a good time to carefully lift yourself off your block, remove it, and roll your body back down to earth. Extend your legs out. And we can all feel that vitality of the earth beneath us. So amazing. Open every body cell in the back of your heart to receive. Be refreshed by the earth's connection. Just take in a few breaths more deeply. Fill yourself with that knowing of your source of health and well-being as it streams in from all around you. And then you may roll onto a side, make a sweet transition, kind transition, holding yourself still in presence. Make your way back to a comfortable seated position. We'll close our practice together. Sahana vavatu, sahana bhunaktu, sahaviryam karvavahe, tejas vina vadhitamastu, ma vidvishavahe. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. May your life be lived in remembrance of the beauty of experience, being in harmony with yourself and others as teacher. And may your yoga be practiced with vitality and peace and balance within. May its blessing bless the world. That's your home. That's our home. Namaste. Well, if it's your time to move on to your next thing, I thank you for being here and staying for the duration of the practice. It's wonderful to see you. And if you'd like to take a moment to say hi and share anything about your experience, I welcome you to stay for a few minutes.
This was a really nice class.
Thank you.
I like.
What did you like about it, especially?
Well, I like when you called us to remember our tools that we had at our disposal. I like that very much. That was very encouraging. Yeah. And the other part in particular was that we could play between poses. You know, that play that you encouraged.
Yeah. I'm glad you like that, Kathleen. I like it too. It's and there is a contrast, isn't there?
Yes.
It helps us. Yeah. I mean, so much of this practice is like about relativities and contrast and what we can do to notice when we're excited and notice when we're on the other end of the spectrum, whatever that looks like. And same thing, it's like, when am I being directed? When am I following the leader versus when am I following impulse or the leader that's within me? The inner guidance. There's a place for both, and they both work. You know, to do that dance and have them work together well it's part of the meaning of that mantra, the Sahana Vavatu mantra. Yeah, teacher and student in harmony. Thanks for speaking that.
Thank you.
I really enjoyed all the references to nature because it's such a perfect temperature. I'm actually out in our backyard today. So I was able to integrate your words, and of course birds all over. Integrate your words with what I was experiencing outside. So the outside and the inside, it was really cool.
Yeah, it's a lovely place here at Bella. Is that your home?
Mm-hmm.
Nice practice space.
Yeah.
Thanks for acknowledging that. Go ahead, Rachel. Hi.
I really enjoyed I guess you spoke in the way you taught was really empowering, so I really appreciate that. And I feel stronger and more relaxed.
What was the last thing I missed?
Was that I feel better in a way and also just relaxed. So.
Oh, lovely. I'm glad to hear that. I'm glad you enjoyed the practice.
I appreciated the fact that you allowed us to go at our own pace. I didn't feel pushed when I was particularly challenged, but I did feel supported and encouraged, to go where I could go. And it's been a long time since I've been to this Saturday class. I've been doing weekday classes, so you're new to me also, and I thank you. I thank you very much for today.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to meet you too. It's fun to practice with you. To see you in the practice and working with it. Yeah, it's amazing when someone reminds you of the resources that you have at your disposal. It does, to your aid, to your own benefit. And an encouragement to use them, because there are a lot of other things that happen. There are a lot of other messages that we get out there. Hurry up, don't do it that way. Do it this way, or whatever it is. And Yeah, it's so important to share in efforts. Be working together at things and challenging ourselves together, and it's so wonderful the way that these classes, these yoga classes, help provide that for us. Appreciate you speaking to that. Nice to meet you, Sandra.
Thank you. Same here.
Angela, did you wish to say hello or speak anything if you're there? It's a nice picture anyway. Well, I may be substituting another class in about a month, unless other opportunities should arise, but I was really glad to have this time to dip back in with my Dia friends in this role, and hope to see you again soon in classes. Be well and keep cool. Keep your cool. Yeah, and I hope this practice stays with you and serves you well.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Take good care. Bye-bye, y'all.